Hey guys, what's up? It's Chris Kohler coming back at you again with another hot tip video specifically for Chris Dunn. Um, so here's how you make, here's how you program drums in Reaper. So first of all, when you purchase Steven Slate, you're gonna have to download and install it. You want to install it to your Reaper plugins folder, specifically your 64-bit Reaper plugins folder. Um, by default, Reaper has one folder in the 32-bit section and one in the 64-bit section. So save it to 64. This is what mine looks like. Program files, Reaper 64, and then it's just plugins. And actually, I scrolled down already. These are, first of all the plugins that I have. I've got a lot of plugins. But right here, you can see SSD library. I saved it just here. I think that was the default name for it. So once you have that installed, you want to go to Options, Preferences, Plugins, and then underneath Plugins, you're going to see VST. And this is where you just point it to that folder. I think it points to that by default. You may need to set it on your own. If so, I think you just go to Edit Path List and Add Path, and then you would just select it from there. But otherwise, I think it's there by default, so just double check that. You click Rescan, and that will basically scan the entire folder and add all of those plugins into Reaper. I think it also does this by default when you open Reaper, a fresh open after you've installed a plugin. I think it does that by default, but I haven't done that in a while, so just in case that doesn't work, just do it this way. This is foolproof. All right, so now Steven Slate is available within Reaper. So what I'm going to do is add a new track. You can go up here, insert new track, or Control T, and click Add here. What I did here is I clicked on the Effects panel, and that opens up this little guy right here, and just click Add. And I think it should be, there's usually like a recently added option right down here somewhere when you add a new one. I haven't added any new ones in a while, so I'm just going to find it this way. By default, I believe it's going to be called like SSD4 or something along those lines in your library. I renamed it to drums-Steven Slate. You can do that if you want to, but that's just so I can easily pull it up. And so I've double-clicked that and added it onto the track, and now this is what Steven Slate looks like. I mean, I don't know what Steven Slate himself looks like, but this is what the plugin looks like. So click Construct Kit up here, and you'll be greeted with this little guy right here. It may look something like this instrument or something like that. Just click Kits up here at the top right. Kits right there. And then SSD4 presets, SSD4 custom. And basically, you'll see when you go to purchase Steven Slate, you have to select which drum kit or kits you want to buy. And I think the one that I bought was called CST, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember what it was called. It was just like a generic rock drum kit. And so basically by doing that, that's in that folder that I installed, and it pulled up these presets for me. And that's essentially what I've purchased, is the plugin and then these little presets right here. So don't worry about the different sound between these. These are all just, it's the same drum kit with like different, the snare is louder on this one, the kick is louder on this one, maybe they're tuned slightly different. Don't worry about that right now. I just want to show you how to get the plugin working and programming a beat. So pick anything that sounds interesting to you. I'll go with Dry 70s. Just double click it. You'll see all these little guys load up. So once you've double clicked it, it should be basically done and ready to go. From here, I'll just kind of go over a couple of these tabs on the left. So this is where you pick the kit or construct the kit. Edit instrument is where you can click on something. So you can see I'm clicking down here, and then at the top it changes. You can actually tune the snare drum. You can tune the kick drum. You can make it sound higher, lower. It's not that useful. The most important thing that you can get out of this is you can change which key, which on the keyboard binds to each of these. But honestly, none of that's really worth looking at right now. Just know that this is where you'd want to go if you want to like tune something or change an individual instrument on the kit slightly. But the most important thing is going to be a mixer. And this is actually a full, mixer for the drum kit within the plugin itself. So you've got your China, hi-hat, kick, ride, snare top, splash, I think four toms. Yeah, four different toms, and then the bottom of the snare, and then the overhead mics, the room mics. And so this is how you're going to balance out the kit. Instead of having like a bunch of tracks over here like you would if you had recorded, 8 microphones on a drum kit, you can just do that all here. So that's really the most important stuff in here for now. I won't go too much further into it. You can do things like decide how much of the snare comes through on the overhead mics or the room mics, that sort of thing. But that's getting pretty advanced, so we'll keep it simple. And let's make a drum beat now that we have this plugin loaded on this track here. I'm going to name it Chris Dunn, Chris Drum, Hot Dog. All right. So in order to program a beat here, first you need to make a MIDI item, basically a blank canvas to program some MIDI onto. So just select anything here. I'm going to select 2 bars of 4/4, which by the way, down here I've got it set to 120 BPM at a time signature of 4/4. You can change that to whatever you would like to do, but we'll keep it simple. So once you have an area selected, you can click Insert up here, New MIDI Item, and this is going to be your blank canvas to make your drum beat. So just go ahead and double click that, and it looks like a piano on the left here. You see each instrument is going to be mapped to one of these keys, meaning each drum is mapped to one of these keys. They're ordered in kind of a strange way, but I've got a trick that'll help with that a little bit. Don't worry too much about it right now, though. For starters, I'll just let you know that C2 right here is your kick drum. And then D2, which is the next note up, is your standard snare drum. So just keep that in mind for now. Kick, snare. The only thing that I wish it did was by default show you which was which, but you can change that by, in a very strange way, double right-clicking a key, which is a very strange thing to have to do. I've never double right-clicked anywhere else, but you can double right-click a key and rename it anything you want to. You can name it kick, and then double right-click this, and you can name it snare, just to help you remember, as an example. And you can do all that, and then up here you can go to File, and you can save. Believe you can save. Yeah, note CC names. You can save a preset and then load the preset later, so that all these names will pop back in. But that aside, we've got our kick, we got our snare, that's a different sort of a different hit of the snare. This would be kind of like if you hit it not dead center, but maybe a little bit to the side slightly. And those are the exact same hit. I don't know why it gives 2 in there. It's a little strange, but we've also got tom, closed hi-hat, another tom, hi-hat open like a with your foot, like the pedal, another tom, open hi-hat, and another tom, ride cymbal, crash, bell, another crash, and this is right there. That's like if you were to kind of hit the side of a crash cymbal, sort of. So, I mean, whatever. Really all you need to know is just a couple of these for now. Let's just use kick, snare. We'll call this hat closed. Why not? And we'll call that one hat open. Like that. Hat open. So I'll go ahead and click File, Note CC Names, save Note CC Names to a file, and we'll just say sample drum names, Chris Dunn, Hot Dog, I don't know. And actually, let's just delete the one I just made. We'll make a new MIDI item. Double click it. Oh, it's already saved on there. I don't know, whatever. Don't worry too much about that, I guess. But if you wanted to make a new file and then just come up here and click Load Note CC Names from File, it actually came up recently here. Boom, and then it would load in all those names. Just if that's something that helps you keep track of what's what. But as far as the beat itself goes, you can see this is all divided into a grid, this bar of 4/4. Down here you can select how you want to divide that. You can go from 128th notes all the way up to quarter notes, every 2 notes, every 4 notes basically. So I usually keep it at about 30-second notes. We can keep it simple though. Let's do eighth notes. So now this is divided into eighth notes. So why don't we just do a kick here, and to do that you just click. Anywhere you click, it's going to draw something. So we're going to put a kick here, and we'll put a snare here, and repeat. And then down here you can just go back to the left and hit space. Cool. It's kind of slow though. Let's double time it. So I'm going to just move everything up. Cool. And you can hold shift and like select and hold control and drag the copy if you want. Just little tips. Go back to the beginning. Cool. So there you go. That's a very simple 1-3 beat. We can spice it up by adding some hat. And I'll just select all these, hold control, click and drag. And now. And there you go. That's how you make a drum beat. From here, you can obviously make it more interesting. So I'm going to divide this into 30-second notes. Something that's worth noting, it doesn't matter how long you make these individual notes. So if I make it this long, or if I make it this long, it doesn't matter. So whatever is most convenient for you. I make them a little bit bigger because they're easier to click, but sometimes you need to make them smaller to fit. But yeah, it won't affect the sound of the drum whatsoever. But anyways, we've got 30-second notes, so I can make something more interesting. I'm going to make a standard rock beat. Do-ta, do-do-ta, do-do-ta, do-do-ta. Now, I already know what this sounds like by memory. I've done this so many times. It's going to go do-ta, do-do-ta, do-do-ta, do. And then move this one over. There you go. So now it sounds like this. Classic drum beat. Couple other little tips that are helpful for when you make a drum beat, because I mean by default basically what's happening here is every single piece of this drum kit is getting hit with full force, as if the drummer was just hitting complete full force. But what if you want to do something a little bit softer? What if you have an area, a section of a song that's a little bit calmer, and you want it to just be more subdued? So you click on a note, and you can scroll with your mouse wheel to zoom in a bit. I don't know, I just like to do that. But if you see, if I put my mouse to the top of the note, you get this little arrow key here thing, little arrow icon. You can actually click and drag, and you can change the volume of it. So I'm going to bring it down. So now it's at about 45. It ranges from 127 is the highest, the hardest hit, and 1 is the softest hit. And what's cool about Steven Slate is that it's not just going to be just the volume you're changing. It's actually different snare samples. So they recorded someone hitting a snare full force, and that's 127. They recorded a slightly softer one, and that's like around maybe 90. They recorded an even softer one, and that's like around 40. And so they basically, by changing the volume here, not only are you changing the volume of the snare itself, you're changing which sample it's using. So if you listen, that sounds very different than this. Sorry. Like that's a very clearly a hard hit. Now if I bring it down, it's clearly someone hitting it much softer. So that's what's one of the fun things about Steven Slate is that you can make a much softer beat like that. So I'm going to select everything. And let's just bring it down to 50. I don't know how to, it looks like the hi-hats were a little bit soft. I'm going to bring those up to about 50 as well. I don't know how to change it so that as you're changing the volume, the sample doesn't play, but just you'll get used to it. Let's see. All right, so I've gone through, I've made sure that they're all at about, more or less about 50, and now it sounds like this. It's very wimpy, but that could be good if you have like a softer section of a song, more chill. Maybe we can even make this hi-hat a ride cymbal. Where is the ride cymbal? There it is. That's pretty nice. All right, so moving back to the hi-hat though. Another thing that's really helpful, I'm going to move these all back to 127. You've got your open hi-hat here. What's cool about Steven Slate is that it's pretty smart, and it knows that a hi-hat can't be open and closed at the same time. So if I move this first note up to a hi-hat that's open, you can, if I just click on it, you can hear how it rings out. But since I have a closed hi-hat right here, it knows that right there the hi-hat needs to close, and it does it in a very natural way. So this is what it sounds like. So, you know, that sounds pretty good. I can do another one down here. There's another open hi-hat down there, so now it sounds like this. Yeah, so I mean, Brian Lamberty loves to, you know, choke a hi-hat like that to emphasize beats, and that's a great way to do it. And Steven Slate is using the open and closed here. It's a nice way to make a beat more interesting and kind of accent certain hits. And other than that, I mean, that's really the basics of it. It's all about getting used to the interface here, and then just playing around with how to make a drum beat and getting used to what makes up a good drum beat, essentially. And you'll get to know that the more you play around with this. When I first started making drums, it was in Guitar Pro, which used a pretty similar setup. And that's how I started to understand how drums worked, is because I could see it in front of me. Like, okay, he hits the kick, then he hits the snare, then he hits it twice, you know, and the whole time he's got the hi-hat going, and it starts to sort of make sense. But that's the basics of it. You can change, like I was saying, going back to this really quick, one last tip. If you wanted to rearrange everything so that on this piano roll, maybe you want all of this to be grouped together in a more logical way. You want all the hats to be right next to each other, all the toms to be right next to each other. You can do that by changing the note that it's set to over here. So like we've got the kick set to C1. You could set it to C3, and I don't know. You can see right here. I don't really do that much, but once in a while it will be helpful. But you can just set it to any note on the keyboard or on the piano. But other than that, I think it's got some pre-made beats here you can play with under grooves. I don't really mess with those much, just because I'm comfortable enough making my own drum beats and fills. But, you know, if you just need a quick thing to start jamming over, there is stuff in here. So, like, if I do Bridge 01. Yeah, I think you can just, you can, like, drag them in, basically. Sorry. Yeah, it was still playing. So basically what I did was I selected one of these things. It's like, here, I'll start that over. Nashville, I don't know, versus, hi-hat closed. All right, let's stop that. Let's just drag it in there. All right, so now it's here for you. So, I mean, just as an idea. Yeah, so if you want to mess around with that just to get used to it, you can do it that way too. But otherwise, I mean, that's the basics of it. There's a lot of other stuff here that I don't mess with at all, and I'm sure is very helpful in different ways. I could show you how to tune a snare drum again. So if I take this knob and turn it up, now it's like a piccolo snare all the way up. It's probably going to sound ridiculous. I mean, even then, that sounds okay. That sounds like System of a Down snare drum. You can go really low. Sounds a little bit ridiculous, but maybe a little bit low. Yeah, it sounds all right. So something else you can mess with. I was talking about bleed level before. You can make it so that the snare doesn't come through in the overheads or the room at all, like that. And, you know, that would probably change the sound of it. But that's getting pretty technical and probably a little bit too nitty-gritty for now. Hopefully this at least gave you an idea of how to make a beat, how the plugin works. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, MySpace, Friendster, Zanga, LiveJournal, Yeah, let's go to the moon.